Okay. Okay, it's like giving me the redirecting. Okay, here we go. And now we are live. Say hi, Val.
Hey, hi. Wow, sorry.
Okay, it's
Here
like giving
I am. Yeah, so
Okay. Oh here we wait, go. But it's I gotta change
And
the
now
we are live.
oh, you get this echo. Hey, hi. Wow, sorry.
Wait, no, this is like I have
Yeah,
to stop this
so
because it's not on Nikki Anna Jones. It's on
it's
I gotta
okay.
change. And now we are live. Well,
Oh,
I can
you get this
actually
echo. Hey, hi. Wow, sorry.
wait, no, this is like
There was a pretty significant echo thing
yeah.
going on.
I'm not sure if it's still if still live or not. This is crazy because like they've changed stuff. It used to not be okay, it still shows me as if I'm live. Sorry guys, bear with me for a second. I'm trying to
Let me see
figure this.
if you're on.
I think it like went to another account of mine that's not Nikki Anna Jones.
Right.
So that's what I was like, but then it would say Nikki Anna Jones at the bottom, so I'm not sure what account it's on live on. Okay, so apparently we're live. All right, well,
Oh,
here
really? Oh,
I
cool. Oh,
hate
yeah,
when
you are.
people
I do
do
see
this.
it. I do see it.
When people do that whole
Yeah, I'm on there.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. Good. Yeah, I hate when people are always like, "Huh? We're live. Is this thing working?"
Yeah. There's always that.
Okay, so
I'm gonna
anyway,
get up for one moment. I'll be right back. 1 second.
okay, cool. Uh,
I'll be right back here.
all right, people who are actually on the live,
Here we
uh,
are.
I'm trying this, and
Uh, so
I'm here with Val Lahey, and he is a psychic,
hi.
astrologer, and anyway. He is going to talk to us today and tell us a little bit about
So
some stuff. Good. I'm here with Val Lahey, and he is a psychic
hi.
astrologer.
How can I fix the echo?
I just paused my YouTube one and I'm just doing off the Zoom.
Okay, that's probably it. Like I'm probably hearing your YouTube coming through or something. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So, all right. So tell me about basically tell me about like what do you think's happening and okay, so Val I would say that he basically does unconventional astrology and it's like outer planets like and other planetoids.
Yeah, yeah. I like to focus on the trans-Neptunian objects is what they're called. So Pluto is one of them. And there's a bunch of recent discoveries. They're all from the 21st century. So that's kind of exciting. Everything besides Pluto was from after 2000. And it's like a wave of some new kind of awareness that's coming in because every time we have a discovery, it signifies some kind of shift in awareness. So it's a funny thing for me is that these planets that have these dwarf planets, Eris, Haumea, Makemake, there's a bunch of other ones like Quaoar, Sedna. They've all come in since 2000, and you'd think there'd be like this interest because there's so much that idea of a shift in awareness and like a new kind of enlightenment or all that stuff is in the air. Like people really talk about that, but astrologers do not. They're kind of rejected these things. They're like they're not. There isn't really that much going into them, and like most of the research or most of the attention on them, in my opinion, is like a little bit lazy. Like they aren't people aren't really cluing in as to like what these things are doing.
Well, I mean, like Eris demoted Pluto, and
Yeah.
then I think you have this thing where it's like and maybe in the psyche, since they're called dwarf planets and they're not real planets, that people kind of
Yeah.
maybe use that as like, okay, that's why it's not legit.
I think that's part of it. It's like yeah, I no, I think that's a really good point. It's like they're little. So there's a lot of study of Pluto in astrology. Like there's a lot. Like there's a whole school called evolutionary astrology that just is like, really, really into the effects of Pluto. That is one of the major like new age branches of astrology, right? And I think that part of how that happened is when we first discovered Pluto, we didn't know how big it was. And it kept like the more we learned about it, it was the smaller it got to like now we find out it's smaller than the moon. But by then it was too late. It was like we already understood that people already realized that it had a big effect.
Um,
So, but these
well,
other ones, they're coming in, we know they're little. So it's like there's a move to kind of like say no.
okay, so then okay, we know what the moon and the sun does like for a person's personality. We know what your where if Jupiter's in your whatever house and this where like we know what the other planets do. Um,
Yeah.
so then how do we I'm sorry, I keep on getting messages and I cannot turn it off. I don't know how, and it keeps on when it's stinging, I'm like, ah. Um,
No. So yeah.
yeah, my mom's going, I'm
Hey.
going live. How do I get this? How do I find that link? I lost you. I don't know where you are. Blah blah blah. I'm like, Mom, leave it alone. I'm live.
I mean,
The
your mom, you never know. She could end up being the most interesting thing that's going on.
Right.
You know?
Which is pretty funny how I did that. But okay, yeah. So, okay, so like what I was trying to say is was like we know tried tested and like throughout the centuries or supposedly or at least for multiple you know, as long as they've been doing astrology, like what these other things do. So maybe people just don't really think that the new discoveries like are able to be defined. Is that like probably part of the
Yeah,
dis
I mean, yeah, I think that there's so many factors. There's, I got what I used to hear when I was living in New York. That's going back more than 5 years ago. What I used to get from other astrologers there was that there's just too many things. Too many objects to keep track of, too many influences to take into account. And that's a legit thing to say because, for example, there's like thousands of asteroids in the asteroid belt. There's a lot, at least there's hundreds. I think there's thousands. And some people specialize in that stuff and they get into like the specific influence of like this or that asteroid until you get into things that are like 5 miles wide, like a rock that's out there. People they and it seems like their analyses work, but it just gets to the point where it's impossible to keep track of everything. So my argument back to them would be to realize that the stuff that's out there in the Kuiper belt beyond Neptune is it's really big. Like they're smaller than Earth, but they're not that much smaller than Earth. Mercury's still bigger than the biggest dwarf planet, but not by much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well then,
There's not that, and there's some, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
hey, well, so what's your like where do you draw the line for your own self where you're like this is going to have significance on our actual day-to-day workings versus this isn't?
Yeah, I think that it's a stew, like it's a big stew. All these things are in there. And so even the little asteroid probably has some influence. It's just a matter of like what I can keep track of in the I there's like a few asteroids that I pay attention to, like asteroid belt asteroids. Everybody pays attention to Chiron. Chiron's really small. It's like a thing that's orbiting between Saturn and Uranus. And so that caught on really big um, in the 80s and has stayed important to people. And I think it has an influence that's worth tracking. Then you get on the other side of Neptune, there's Pluto, which definitely has a huge impact on the economy, like a demonstrable thing. Like it always, every time it just changed signs, went into Aquarius, and that's a big change in the global economy. It's like one of the most easy to trace things that like will make you believe in astrology is to watch what Pluto's doing and see a way that it affects the global economy. So that one, I'd say for sure, we've proven really that that counts for a lot. And then I would count Eris along with that. That's Eris, Eris. And then I look at Haumea, 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 and Maki Maki, which is spelled make. Those the like just like writing make next the two words next to each other as one word. Those three, I add those into the mix. And then the other ones, I think they have an influence too, but I'm not able to do justice. Like I'm not able to really like all my time really in astrology, most of it goes to studying Eris and looking at it in charts like over through history and stuff to understand it. And then I have a little space left over to get Haumea and Maki Maki. The other ones I think are really interesting, but I kind of let them go um, because it's just I can't. I think those three are the most influential ones besides Pluto. But
Okay.
there's always new discoveries, and who knows, you know?
Okay, so we have UWU who gave us $5, thank you, and said
Wow.
best beginner resource to learn about astrology, question mark, books, websites, apps, thank you. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Great question. Cafe Astrology website is one of the best. I think it's the least intimidating one to go to, just Cafe Astrology. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think it's the best place to go if you want to get an introduction. And then I love Astrodienst, which
I spelled that.
I think it's just I think the website is actually just astro.com or astro.net. But if you search Astrodienst, which is a German word, it's Astrodinst.
And I have to say, like, I have like Patterns is an app that I have with a lot of different friends, and then I have a bunch of um, like I watch the Leo King a lot. I think
Oh,
he's
Leo King's cool. Yeah.
Leo
Yeah.
King's cool. And then like my friend Miara has what is her site called? I watch all her stuff. It's like a awakened aspects and but the thing is, and I like Joni Patry, but she does Vedic astrology, but I still kind of like to compare that. Uh
Yeah.
but I recently started talking to Grok about astrology. I've been asked I
Oh,
like
cool.
I'll just I'll give Grok like the AI for Twitter or X or whatever. I'll say here, tell me about my astrology. This is my birthday time, and you have to have the your time of birth, where you're born at, and your actual date.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. Like it gives you your natal chart and it gives you details. And
Right.
then if you don't understand something about it, you can instantly ask it, and it'll explain what that means. So I mean, I've heard that other astrologers are like, okay, it's very basic, beginnery, but I just kind of like that I can actually instantly get feed. It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's a really vast subject, astrology. I think people that haven't looked into it probably don't understand how huge it is. Like, there's no one person in the world who is the foremost authority on astrology as a whole. It's like it's so big. All you can really do is find if you're going to study it or pursue it in any kind of professional context, you kind of have to. There has to be a period of time of reckoning with it that you're not going to be able to grasp the whole thing. It's giant. So I think anywhere that you're comfortable starting is going to be good. You know,
And for me, I used to be super poo-pooing on it all the time because like I just
yeah.
was. Because I just didn't like the idea of something being predetermined. And
Well, it's not necessarily.
okay,
You know.
so yeah, explain that then. Because just the fact that astrology works to any degree means there is some sort of design happening or some
That's
sort.
true. That's true. But then that's also just true in nature also. Like we have DNA, we've got, family history, you're born into a certain kind of where, what country you're born into or what class you're born into. There's limits that you're born with, that you work with.
True.
And it's to my mind, it's not that much different. Um, the cookbook stuff is what we call it cookbook is when you're getting these delineations, uh, like the kind of stuff you can get from AI, which is uh, definitely useful. Like if I had known nothing about this topic, I'd probably be really psyched and just like 2 or 3 years, I could probably just go through AI and be very edified by that. But the thing is that it's really subtle. Everybody's got a combination of all these influences, and it's the same thing as any discipline that you undertake, or like it's like your own health. It's like learning your own body and like what works for you. It's like there's all these different factors. And so like being a Leo, being an Aquarius, being a Taurus, like it's what your sun sign, even the simplest things, like just having your sun sign, knowing it and knowing how you're expected to behave or what the traits are that you look for, you'll find some truth in what somebody else says, but then you'll also always have to kind of go back and look at your whole chart. Remember, you're an individual. It's a really subtle thing, like there's like I'm Aquarius with the Taurus moon, and if I know other Aquarians with Taurus moon, I do know other Aquarians with the Taurus moon, and we're not really that similar as people. I can just see where those influences are the same.
Yeah.
You
Well, I mean, like I'm a Gemini with a Pisces moon,
Yeah,
and I'm like I don't I mean like
like Prince.
like Prince. That's a good.
Yeah, like
Yeah, that's nice. Like
yeah.
that's a good one to have. Like
He's the most famous one that I know of. Yeah, with that combination.
that's
Yeah,
a good reference. I like
pretty
that.
awesome. He you can really I feel like you can really see it with him. The creativity super
Oh,
high.
totally. Yeah, totally. And
Yeah,
I mean, Geminis are supposed to be really communicative and,
they're the
yeah.
best with words.
And I don't think I'm the best with words, but I like to talk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like it's not a hard fast thing. Like I know people think Shakespeare didn't write his stuff. I think he did. So Shakespeare's a Taurus, he's not like it's not a sign that's known for being particularly loquacious or like
Mm.
great, in any kind of like they usually don't really care about communicating. They'd rather eat. But but Gemini's just my opinion, Gemini's just really good at everything, to be honest.
Well, it's a very a mind sign.
Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
mind is quick, it's really
But
nimble.
the thing is, but my point with it was is like I know a ton of Geminis, tons of Geminis, and I'm not really that similar to that many of them.
Well,
So
you have wrenches. You get some major wrenches because meaning you got things that really change it. Like with the Pisces is
mm,
very different. And also it's the things I look for with Gemini Sun, just for what it's worth. The things I look for are they're no matter who they are, they're usually pretty able to communicate. Whether there's some really standoffish ones who are like they're maybe you don't think they're that friendly, but they're still chatting. Like they'll still interact with you.
right.
And if you write to them, they'll write back to you. And their mind is just so much faster. And also then it depends on if you have your Mercury in Gemini, because a lot of people with the Gemini sun, they'll also have the Mercury
I do.
because Mercury's traveling really close to the sun.
Right.
Mercury's always it's only one sign away. So like if you want to know if you want to know a really fun way to guess somebody's sign, the place that I would start with is a Mercury. So you look at that person and say, how is this person communicating? I mean, it's good. It's almost impossible to get somebody's sign unless you're just using your intuition and you can't really explain it. But if you look at the how are they communicating, then that gets you within a couple of signs. Like if you think, oh, this person of Nikki, I can really feel that she's got this Mercury in Gemini because she's so neutral. Like you can deal with all these different crazy guests, and it's like you're not phased by anything, and you can keep the communication going like rapid fire, and that's all Gemini stuff. So if I think, okay, the Mercury's in Gemini, then that person is either Gemini Sun, Taurus Sun, or Cancer Sun. Then I started to think, okay. Am I seeing both? Is it kind of feel like it's Gemini on both sides there, or is there, because Taurus and Cancer are so different than Gemini. Gemini's air with that neutrality. Taurus is, earth fixed. It's like a much slower kind of a serene kind of vibe. And then Cancer's usually leading with the emotions somehow. There's and Cancer's a lot more finicky. Like they can, they'll be very outgoing one moment and then they'll pull way back and not wanna, you know. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents
Yeah,
on
that's
that.
so this they also say what's the best time and date to be born?
What's the best time and date? There isn't
I don't
one.
think that I don't think there is such a thing as
No,
the
but there's conventional, there's like some, if you get the when you go further back in time, there's some really dogmatic stuff where there people do say certain things like it's better to be born closer to noon,
yeah,
like you are actually.
like me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I've
because
I've heard that the closer you are to noon, the better it is, or the more qualities of your sign you have versus if you're born at midnight, which is the furthest away from
oh, well,
the sun.
okay, it's what it is that the sun is highest in the sky, so the sun's going to have more power perhaps. There's the sun and moon, there's the two halves. So if you have a day chart versus a night chart.
Mhm.
So if the sun's below the horizon, if it's before sunrise or after sunset, you got a night chart, then the conventional wisdom is that the moon is a little stronger. So
Oh,
it's like helps to know the moon sign. Like everybody knows their sun sign, but they don't really know their moon sign. It's a tricky thing because if your sun is way up high in the sky, if you're up like near, if you had a 10th house sun, if your sun's up at the midheaven, then your rising sun, which counts for a lot, it's not going to be the same as your sun sign. It's going to be something different. Sometimes a lot of times it can be square.
hmm.
Like I don't know, you're a Virgo. I mean, if you don't mind me saying it, right? You're a Virgo
Okay, go ahead.
rising,
Yeah, yeah.
Gemini sun with the Virgo rising. So that's like they're kind of very, very sharply contrasting influences. So you have it's but the you get when you got the sun up there, the sun is stronger, it's shining in the 10th house. 10th house just you get more attention anyway. Your standing in society is a little bit higher. Like Trump is a 10th house sun, so it's just he's very common, like he's kind of typical 10th house sun in a certain way that he's always up in the public eye. He's very comfortable with that. And it's
And
like
that's another thing. If you're just starting, you have to know there's 12 houses, right? And you have to know what
yeah,
each
I mean there's so much
so much.
stuff. It's like
Right.
I would say it probably took me about 5 years to really feel like I had a handle on all those different things. And I still didn't really fully understand them. I mean, it's like an ongoing thing.
Well,
You know.
like I have been kind of actively studying it for like a year, meaning like I took this one, I can't remember the name of the course. I took a course for a little bit and then like I have a bunch of books now that I'm reading on it and I watch a bunch of stuff on it, but it's like you can only consume so much at a time because it's so convoluted and it's like, wait, what? And then you have to remember like all the properties of everything and it's kind of crazy and
Yeah, yeah.
to me it's like I just look at it as like our it's like a big clock that our realm is on that has all these different uh you know vague influences. So let's talk about like
Can
yeah, tune on
sorry, I don't
that.
want to I want to point something out that like where you just went for a second is there's a distinction between when you're looking globally versus personally. So there's what's called, it's a kind of funny thing. They use the word mundane, right? So you think of mundane as being kind of like humdrum, boring, but mundane in astrology actually means you're looking at like global events and the
Oh,
whole energy of the world versus your personal chart is different. And the way that the planets behave and stuff, there ends up being a fairly significant difference because your personal chart, you're mastering this different stuff for yourself, really different than globally. It's like everybody's experiencing it in present time all at once.
like we're all in Taurus right now, right? Like
Yeah, the
'cause
sun's in Taurus for everybody right now, so that's having its effect. It's like, that desire for stability is there, kind of like a pause to enjoy. the
But even
world.
on that note of like the best time and date to be born, I do know
Okay.
that like, because I used to work at this art gallery and like I had like a Rockefeller docent lady that would come that was part of the people
Yeah.
like yeah. And she like had to have my astrology before she would even I know a lot of people live off this, but I
Uh-huh.
also am under the impression that a lot of them are into numerology and they like to like get cesareans on certain dates.
They
Like
want cesarean births?
cesarean births on
Or you
certain
mean people
dates so
people
that
plan their birth to try
they
to get
plan the
something?
birthday of their kid when it's around.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that that's my own take on that is
No, I wouldn't do it. I'm just
yeah,
saying
yeah, yeah, yeah,
people
yeah. I,
I
it's
I think there are some people who are into that.
yeah, I mean, it's the thing is, it's like the charts of chart. There isn't really such a thing as like a good chart or a bad chart. People that you think, people that if you people that are really happy and have had great lives, it's like you can look at their chart and the conventional interpretation of it would be, wow, what a terrible chart. And you can, try to calculate and make something happen the best way possible, try to pinpoint the perfect time and place. And you may not get that great, like I was just saying, the charts for 9/11 was like a lot of it was really there were some things that were not great, but a lot of it was really nice, like in a lot of ways the
Be a full
astrology
day.
for it was yeah, 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 yeah. So it's just it's but when it's down to people especially, there's a really big there's a lot to be said for that person's individual sovereignty, their spirit, like their ability to work with that energy and transmute it and make the best of it or not.
Yeah.
That counts for more than anything, really. So it's yeah, and you don't want you like if you're looking for everything to be soft, everything to be like if you want like really good angles and everything to be perfect in the chart, that doesn't necessarily you don't necessarily end up with the best person like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in. Sorry if there was something else I was going to say, but I lost my lost track.
Okay, so let's go into what is this chart you have right? Is this a mundane
This
chart?
is this is what's happening now. Yeah, so I put it for San Francisco. Let me do something. I'll
Okay, yeah, because you're in San Francisco.
yeah, yeah. I'll let me do a slightly different. Oh yeah, I just actually darn it, I already had it there. Um, we'll put this one up. Okay. Resolution is not going to be quite as crisp looking, but it's okay. So we'll take the houses out of it because the houses are formed by the specific location you're in.
Okay.
So let's just say this is a chart for uh I mean technically it's a chart for like 15, 20 minutes ago, but
Right.
it's pretty close to what's happening. So we've got Mercury in Aries, Chiron in Aries, and Eris in Aries. So Mercury's real fast. It's moving a little bit faster than the sun. It's zipping back and forth. Chiron takes about 50 years to go around. And Eris, my favorite planet, takes forever and ever. It takes like 560 years to orbit. So, it's really barely moved anything. It's going
Does
to be
that mean Eris is in Aries for our lifetime?
yeah, Eris is in Aries, the tongue twister, Eris in Aries. It's been in Aries for 100 years. It's going to be in Aries for about 20 more years.
Oh, okay.
And it takes a little while to transition between signs because the planets, except for the sun and moon, the planets retrograde. So they'll sort of wiggle back and forth. And for Eris, it takes about 7 years, 5 to 7 years for it to move in and out. Also, they have parabolic. The further out you go, the trans-Neptunian objects have very weird, long, elongated parabolic orbits. So they spend like way longer in one sign than they do.
And other ones, okay.
Yeah. So it spends like it's got a 560-year orbit. It spends about 125 years in Aries as a rule. It just does. So it's like it's like what is it? It's more than a fifth. of its
Yeah.
time is in one sign, and then like it's racing through some other ones, comparatively speaking. Like it'll take about 10, 15 years to go through Libra, you
So
know.
parabolic meaning it's like
It's
a
not it's further away from being a circle.
right, more
Yeah.
oblong.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
So
then okay. Yeah, go ahead.
the planets between Mercury and Neptune, they're technically not circular orbits, but they're pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so then okay, the other thing I was gonna ask you is we call if we're gonna call this Doomsday Soufflé. Like
Yeah, Doomsday Soufflé.
what do you what's your what do you think what's going on? Like why
So
do
much
you see that?
stress, so much tension, so much fear, so much anxiety, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, there's just like globally, it
Oh,
seems
there
like
is.
people
So
are
like
just on edge.
what's causing that? Like and it's
Yeah.
honestly it's been like this for shit. It's probably been like this since 9/11, honestly, if we want to be real. But
Yeah, well, there was something funky happened there there was clearly some, I feel like somebody was doing some black magic to try and steer everybody's head into this sort of like vortex of worry, you know? Like Terrence McKenna said, he said, when you worry, you're betting on the devil, which I love.
or like I like that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Or it's like worrying is like I don't know. It's experiencing something bad twice. Like
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah,
it
yeah.
happens, if it
Yeah.
doesn't, like okay, but then you just you know.
Well, it's like when I think I like when he says when you worry, you bet on the devil, it's just like here's the bottom line is everything's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. There's suffering or whatever, but it's like I don't even know what I'm doing here. I think it's like a miracle to be alive in the universe. It's just great, you know? And then I have my dramas and I get into things that I care about, right? And like
Yeah.
there's ups and downs and I do worry about stuff, but it's just like everybody being on edge. It's a little different. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of shenanigans, a little bit of monkey business, going on.
Well, I mean, for example, it's like I it's like the political nature of our country. I mean, like I used to be in
Yeah.
college. It didn't like matter if you were Democrat, Republican. Like I literally had
Yeah,
zero
that's true. Yeah.
about a person one way or the other. Could give two
It
shits.
was like a little thing.
It was a
It
very
was
little
sort of
thing.
like
Now it's
you would tease somebody a little bit and
it
that
was like a sports team. That was
yeah,
it.
yeah, it was sort of like barely anything.
And
Yeah.
now it's like yeah. I mean, it's just like
It's too crazy. It's way too
crazy.
crazy. I mean, obviously people are being played and manipulated because it's been like I told people like it's like they're like look at when things are just really crazy. There's a lot of stress and a lot of tension right now and the game's all been ratcheted up a lot. However, my contention would be leaving alone where stuff is right now. I would say even if you go back to Trump's first term, my opinion, it really wasn't that different than Obama. There was like a different overlay, like there was sort of a different spin, and people were sort of being trained to think in different ways, or there were different things were being emphasized, but like the bottom line way they were governing wasn't really that different, you know?
Well, I
It
mean, I guess in that well, inflation has become
inflation now is a yeah, yeah, yeah,
crazy
yeah,
now, and
yeah.
that's like that started in the. I mean, I started noticing in COVID years,
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Do you want me to get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's the thing is that America's really I don't want to I would almost say that we're doomed. Okay. I mean, and there's a reason for that in astrology, in my opinion, is that Pluto, it I know that what I'm saying, it's for most people, it might sound just totally whacked, but the fact that Pluto's no longer the furthest thing out in the solar system that we know about, I think that means I think that that's when once we discovered things that were further out, that was the end of the American hegemony on Earth. And I think America's really aligned with Pluto in this very weird way through the through the iconography of the pyramid.
Okay, so from my un understanding, we like Pluto takes like 270 something years or something to
248.
okay, so 248 years to go
Yeah.
through full and we basically are back where it started when the country
Yeah,
was
we had our Pluto return.
when
And
was that?
yeah, Pluto returns when it comes back
I
around.
know, but what date was that?
Oh, it depends on how you measure it. So for the D Declaration of Independence, I'm pretty sure that that was like around 27 degrees of Capricorn is where Pluto was. So that's if recently we, because you got to remember they go backwards and forwards. So it
Hmm.
takes a few years, like it'll sort of wiggle over that point. And I think last time it was at that point where we completed the Pluto return for the Declaration of Independence was either we just barely, I think we touched it about a year ago for the last time. And
So yeah, I remember
we're coming at we're at the we America was that declaration came in at the end of Capricorn transit for Pluto, and then we just got to the end of that, and now we're in Aquarius now for the next 20 years. So we had the Pluto return for that. However, so I don't want to make it too complicated, but there's the Pluto in the charts of the Constitution, and there's Pluto in the chart of the Bill of Rights, where Pluto is in Aquarius. And I think
well,
personally, I
I
think the Bill of Rights is a big deal.
I guess maybe, but like I still think of Declaration of Independence as sort of like our start date.
You're in the
But
vast majority. You are.
okay, but
That's yeah, that's
then
what most people think. Yeah.
let's take it to like so okay, another thing I've heard, I don't know if it's true,
Mhm.
but a lot of people say like most civilizations or most although
It's a Pluto cycle.
yeah, it's a Pluto cycle. Like
Mhm.
most civilizations like are they're
250
over
years.
before yeah, but 250 to 300 years, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
the last time.
Especially empires, they say.
Empires, that's
Yeah,
empire.
yeah, and that absolutely correlates to Pluto because I think Pluto is it's the ultimate imperial planet.
Right, and Pluto is very much related to governments, right? Like
It's I wouldn't go if you wanted to talk about government, I think Saturn is really your guy. But it or your gal. And I think Saturn's a feminine planet, even though it's named after a male deity. But Pluto is, and I actually think Pluto might be feminine too, really. But it is, it relates to the economy. It's Pluto is sort of like when you're digging for gold, right? And you want to find a gold nugget in the ground and there's other prospectors around, right? And it's like there's a real that it requires ruthlessness and focus, right? And you want to drill down to that place and you want to find that little thing. Say you're like in the gold country, you're out in this vast mountain valley, right? And there's just so much space out there and you're just on your own and it's chaotic and you're just driven by this desire to have this one thing that you got to get and you'll do anything to get it, right? You'll lie, cheat, steal, do anything. That's I'm not saying that you will personally or anybody, but it's just theoretically that mindset, that's the Pluto mindset. And that's the Pluto archetype is it's got a connection with death in the underworld, but it's very complex.
but
Yeah.
where I will kind of be like maybe it is that I don't we weren't the world power till after pretty much World War II set us
Right,
up.
well then no, the discovery of Pluto was 1930.
Okay,
And
1930, but then
that's around the time that the pyramid went on the dollar.
oh, okay, I didn't know
So it's
that.
not when
I
I
mean, I
say
didn't
these things, when I say it's real important. When I say these things, it's not a deliberate thing. It's a big part of astrology is the collective unconscious. It's
mhm,
people doing things like they're naming stuff, they're doing things they don't know. I mean, the people that came up with the names for the new discoveries of the planets, they had no idea that it had any correlation to astrology. They're usually people that have no interest in astrology.
right.
They're not thinking about any level of metaphysics with this shit for the most part. For the
But
most
it is
part.
odd that they always name them after Greek gods
Well,
and stuff.
there's the ones that were already there. right. So
Well,
that
Eris is new, and that's a isn't that a Greek
yeah, but
god?
I mean they're continuing that.
Okay.
So that there's layers of things that are really interesting about that. Like there was a movement within the astronomy field. They deliberately chose to aim things for goddesses on one level, and they also were going, in general, they were going for non-Western stuff. They were trying to bring more diversity in. And then ironically, they ended up giving Eris a Greek name because of the whole thing with the debacle that when Pluto was demoted because it was such a shit show for them. These guys are they're looking to build their careers. The astronomers. That's the way it has been.
Yeah.
The guy who discovered Uranus, the first new planet that had been discovered in thousands of, since the history of civilization, right? He did that in 1781. For him, it was a happy accident. But after that, and it made him into an international superstar. His life was never the same. He was instantly the hero of Britain at the height of their power was Herschel, this guy Herschel. They
Right.
wanted to name the planet after him. They wanted to name it Herschel. But then after his success, it fired up everybody's lust to get that prestige of discovering the planet. So there's intense competition to discover Neptune. There's the guy who discovered Pluto, he was a independently wealthy guy, spent his whole fortune and like decades of his life, like built his own observatory to look for that planet. And excuse me, he died before he found it. He died before he found it. And then his wife kept the thing going for a while, and then she brought in a young guy to do the work to replace him, and that guy discovered it like right away. It's so crazy. It's death and rebirth. It's the archetype energy comes through no matter what. It's just like you can't stop it. You can't do anything about it. You know. And Eris is the same way. So these guys in where was it? Caltech. There was three guys. The main guy is Mike Brown, and uh, there's Chad Trujillo and Dave Rabinowitz, and then there's a couple other female astronomers who've gotten in there. They weren't the people who discovered Eris, but Mike Brown he's still trying to find a planet that's big enough to qualify as a real planet. That's not a dwarf planet. He's still trying to find something that's going to put him in the history books because he really felt jilted. His whole career has been focused on that. And then he found a planet that was exactly the same size as Pluto, so it completely fucked everything because if it was smaller, he could forget about it and just keep going and keep looking for the bigger thing. But he found something that was the same size. And so what it did is it just pissed off everybody because they were already really iffy about Pluto. They didn't like that it was so dinky. And then they said, okay, we're getting rid of Pluto. We're getting rid of Eris. This is a new category, dwarf planet. Doesn't really count. We're not going to teach kids about it in grade school. We're just going to forget about it.
And so this like planet X or this bigger planet that you think or like what tell me what your thoughts are on all like something
Oh, wow.
bigger than
Okay. I think Planet X or Planet Nine is what they're calling it now. I think it's BS.
okay.
It sounds like he's keeping the thing going because what happens out there, there's a bunch of things like Nibiru, we can get into all that.
Right.
I can talk about that. I think Nibiru, if it exists, what it is a binary star. It's our binary companion to our sun, which is somehow it's gone dark. It's like a brown dwarf or something.
Okay.
And there may be there
But
may
we
be
wouldn't we have already found a brown dwarf?
no, no, no. Here's the thing is that we don't we if it's gone dark, like if it's like because like Pluto, like Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, they all actually emit light. They're putting energy out, but just not very much. So like Neptune, we can't see it with the naked eye. And actually, even though we can see these planets in other solar systems, either we can go really far out and see this stuff, we can only see those planets when their sun is shining on them. It's the fact that these things are kind of dark and hard
Didn't
to
I tell you
find.
about that one moon? There's a moon on Saturn that what is it called? It's la lap
Oh,
LSD,
Iapetus. Iapetus.
Lapidus.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
that when the sun's hitting it, it's dark, and when it's in the shadow of the sun, like when it's in the shadow of Saturn's planet, it's
It
lit.
lights up.
So it does completely opposite of what
Yeah. Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre.
I mean, we don't really, here's the thing is we don't really know what the outside of our solar system is made up of. We don't really know. There's this theory of a thing called an Oort cloud, OORT,
Yeah.
which is like a giant cloud of ice crystals and stuff. And that's a really old theory that has basically everything we learn just seems to make it less and less valid. So,
Well, and I think like a big part, like, I tried to get my PhD in astronomy, and I have like I went I have I basically almost have a minor in it in my undergrad, and like I because I was like geology was like my second major besides art history.
okay, cool.
So like I was very obsessed with space, and like I tried to work at NASA. I tried to like
Oh, wow.
I was very
I did
very
not know that.
yeah, like I actually know a lot about this shit. But I think the more I looked into it, and like I've been to like Mauna Kea and Hawaii, I've been to like
Oh, cool. Have you been to the Keck Observatory?
yes, I have. And then I've been to the one that I like the most that is the one in the McDonald Observatory in Marfa, like around there.
Oh, love it.
It's actually in what is it called? Mc, but it's right by Marfa, Texas, basically, but it's called the
Special
McDonald.
place.
Yeah, and you can pay like $100 to get to view out of like and it's the biggest telescope that a person who's not an actual astronomer can look at. And you can,
Oh, neat.
yeah, so like, but anyway, the point is, or like the thing that really bothers me about all of it is like, we had um I mean, right now we have the James T. Webb telescope up there, and
Yeah.
that's and they had the Hubble telescope before that, right?
Hmm.
And Hubble was off kiltered, and so they had to do some recalibrations before it was actually working, and it worked a lot longer than they thought it was going to. And now we have the James T. Webb. They have one damn soul like looking out in the cosmos, and the rest of it is just like satellites, like for our phones and shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the interest in with our, it's like the culture when I was a little kid in the early 70s, that was like the peak of people being interested in learning about the cosmos just for the sake of learning about the cosmos, right? And we've kind of fallen off. I think just as people's lives have become increasingly stressful, their ability to have perspective and their desire to just look out there has made this stuff less of a priority, has made it less sexy. So it
Oh, and I
just gets
mean,
less and less attention. That's
I,
my opinion.
I mean, my opinion has got, I mean, I'm a little bit more conspiratorial in terms of like, I just like, I think now we're looking at, oh, it's been what, 53 years since somebody has set foot again on the moon. So like, I
Right.
don't,
Well, the moon is that's a, that stuff is okay, see there's the physical reality of the moon and whatever the truth is about lunar landings and the dark
right,
side of the moon and all that stuff, which is really fascinating. But there's the astrology, which is a little bit more like what I would liken it to is it's Plato's cave. It's we're looking at the phenomenological world. We're looking at objects in the world, but then there's this archetypal world behind us that's bringing different energies or different vibrations of things into being. And so there's the metaphysical there's that Plato's cave reality of the moon as the energies of that thing and what it's bringing.
right,
The kind of archetypal ideas, which is a lot more um, like the anima, feminine side of the personality of the soul, like with the fluctuations of things that like correlate to stuff like menstruation and like shifting moods and like
right.
changeability.
And
And
the grow patterns of different, like a new moon versus full moon, and like what it does to like the plants, like,
right, well, that's where there's overlap. So there's like a little bit of overlap between the physical, the real thing, and then the metaphysical, right? There's like a little tiny bit of overlap. There's like there's hints of how those things interact with each other. So like the moon, I mean, the moon's really close to us. So the moon is you're getting into some really basic stuff. It's going to work on you in an unconscious way. It's the moon is basically it's your unconscious self, it's your unconscious personality. I say like your moon sign is always going to be uh very apparent to the people who are close to you. They're going to see that side of you more than you do.
Because your moon sign affects your emotions, right? It's like how you're.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, but it's just like your aura. It's like your habitual self. It's the things you do without thinking.
Mm,
So it's like the Gemini side of you is like that's the part of yourself, especially with Mercury and Gemini too. It's like it's going to make sense to you right away that you're going to identify with that. But the Pisces side may or may not. Other people are going to see it a lot more. People who live with you, they're going to see it a lot more. So
mm,
like for me, the Taurus side of myself, I see it, I'm aware of it, but it's coming through a lot more, with the people that are really close to me, that are seeing me all the time. They're going to see the stubbornness of whatever of Taurus, where I won't. I'll be thinking more Aquarius like, my son. I'll be more
yeah.
consciously reflecting on myself as being that person. Um, I'm sorry, where I don't know where I'm going, but I'm just,
Well, I
do you
mean,
want?
like where I was going with all
Yeah.
with we were kind of talking about the reality of like how like astrology versus astronomy, right? Like the
Yeah.
physicality of the stuff versus like what it.
Well, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you if you're saying.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I mean it's just it does get really interesting when you've got these astronomers. They're searching for new planets, they're searching for new objects. They're basically what they're trying to do more than anything is at this point is they're just trying to map the whole outside of the solar system, like the whole outer shells of the solar system.
And
So
I
they've got just want to finish this thought. They've got this goal that's a very scientific, materialistic goal. But as they're doing it, they're running into these different objects and they're recording them, documenting that there's these planets that are out there. And as they do that, they're bringing the energies of those things more into the collective consciousness.
mm,
So, like, my theory is we hit a really huge thing in the early part of this century between 2000 and 2005. There was like a series of discoveries. And then in 2005, we discovered these three things at once that are more or less about the same size as Pluto. They're very major things that are out there. And there hasn't really been a move to incorporate that stuff in astrology. It's like a wave of awareness that's come to the planet that people don't, they're kind of resisting it. They don't like it. They don't want to, they don't as a rule, it's like a kind of thing of people not really wanting to see it, you know, but it's here. And it's really having a big, big effect now, especially Haumea is really that's the name of the game
and
nowadays.
so you think that essentially America's kind of like got a doomsday thing going on, but just the whole world too, or
Well, no, 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 no. I don't. There's certain things that I can't call. I mean, we're going through a convulsive time. Some of it's real. Like we could actually really have a pole shift, right? And that would be real. There's stuff that happens. But what I'm talking about with America is that it seems to it just it really doesn't matter if it's America or another country. It happens to be the focal point of the empire. So that idea of having an empire where there's one place that's the seat of power for everything, right? If you think of a pyramid and it all converges in one point, but if you look at it radiating out, right, from that one point, the eye in the pyramid, it actually originally wasn't meant to be a symbol of power, but it's come to be a symbol of conspiratorial power. Originally, it was meant to be enlightenment and like seeing the truth, and see it kind of when it was first adopted by the Illuminati in the 18th century. I think it was really meant to represent being able to see things or have knowledge apart from the church.
there's like the monad. It's supposed to be the eye of the monad, like
Yeah, it's
so.
the eye of the monad, but it's also like it was a cultural thing between people who wanted to share ideas without being religiously persecuted.
Mm,
So the culture was breaking away from the church, between the 17th and the 19th century. There was kind of like this huge shift away from religious authorities being able to impose political will, like an inquisition, right? Where someone could be,
right, right.
yeah. But that. but that eye in the pyramid has, in my opinion, it's come to really more than anything represent this conspiratorial nexus of power with Pluto, this idea that there's a hidden source of power. You always got the hidden source of power and its ability to just sort of radiate infinitely like a big bang and control everything from that one source, or be like the original cause that goes out and radiates outward. And so I think that when these other things were discovered that were further out than Pluto, it's like they dethroned that paradigm. They dethroned that archetype. So like the Big Bang, anything you want to attach to that idea that that's why there's so much awareness now of the Illuminati and the conspiracy and the idea that there's this hidden group of elites that are controlling things. Yes, it's real but the thing is that the awareness of it means that it's already losing power. We're moving into a different
Yeah.
paradigm that is, in my opinion, it's based on Eris, and it really has to do with, believe it or not, it's the rule of the people. It's the deems. It's popular. It's ruled by popularity. It's like ruled by likes. You know,
And that's the thing is like, and I've had you on here talking about Eris before, but like basically, do you want to just summarize like Eris is the like what it is in Greek mythology? She's like the lady who brought an apple to a party and she wasn't invited.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, Eris, the myth. It's a crazy story. I mean, they found this planet. They didn't know what to call it. They had a placeholder name that was Xena, Xena, right?
your princess. Yeah.
Yeah, the warrior princess. Yeah, yeah, which is like kind of is it's kind of catchy. It's nice, right? It's
Mhm.
like that's kind of a cool name. And it spent a year just sitting at that name, Xena, that provisional name. And there was a whole thing. They were kind of tried on different names. There were controversies. And while all that stuff is going, they're waiting for the International Astronomers Union to say what this thing is, whether they can classify it as a planet, whatever. And it, after a while, it becomes clear it's not going to work out. And it's like, and then they have this really famous uh convention. They have a meeting where they're like, okay, what are we going to do? And they're like, we don't want this thing to be called a planet. And then they say, by the same metric, we have to say that Pluto's not a planet either. And so they vote to reject Pluto. And there's a whole lot of layers to this because Pluto was an American discovery, right? So the Astronomers Union this is something that's worth remembering, is that the Astronomers Union is in Prague, and it's really a European-based organization. So by rejecting Pluto, they're really sending the hegemony and the power. They're kind of trying to do like a World Economic Forum. Like they're trying to do a kind of like underhanded thing to bring the authority back to Europe because Uranus and Neptune, the only modern discoveries to be classified as legitimate planets, those are European discoveries. One was discovered in Britain, the other was discovered in Paris. They're French. They're I don't know if it's Paris, but they're French, and I think it actually is. But it's one. Uranus was a British discovery, and Neptune was a French discovery. Sorry, I'm getting lost in the tangents, but the thing is
Yeah, but
that
okay, so anyway, so she said the myth is she comes to the party and
yeah,
she's like awkward because she's not invited. She's not supposed to be there.
yeah. So these guys had their party, they had their meeting, and it was like everything went real bad, and it came out saying this ain't a planet and that ain't a planet, and like it was sort of a bummer. Like it come down in the news, like Pluto gets demoted, and everybody's like, what? Right? It's kind of like it's not really. It's a little bit disappointing, right? It's sad. You think you have a new discovery, you think it's this great thing. So what happened is that there was a guy who was a member of this group called the Discordians, which is a weird sort of nerdy spoof religion thing where they worship the goddess Eris, and they talk about they said it's very, very Eris. It was done through social media. This guy made a public post and he said to the people at Caltech, he said, you should name your planet Eris because you just had this epic sort of social disaster that came out of, this total epic embarrassment and humiliation, and it could have like radiated in every direction. And
And
it's
it
very
wasn't fair.
right, and it wasn't fair. So it was just like what happened with Eris the goddess. Is Eris the goddess? She showed up. This stuff is really it tells you everything you need to know. Okay, is that what happened in mythology is the Trojan War started because of this bad party. It was basically a wedding reception that everybody, all the gods were there, and they were all like, "Look at us, we're so great." And we're having our it's like a Met Gala. We're having our fabulous party. We're the beautiful people. Exactly the same thing. Okay. And Zeus, the king of the gods, he did not invite Eris. He didn't want Eris. And it's kind of left blank in Homer in the Iliad. It's kind of left open. We don't really understand why he didn't want her there, except he was just like, she's a bummer. She's not cool. We don't want her. And she did this thing, which is actually kind of really amazing. She did performance art. She did a guerrilla performance piece. She went to the ends of the earth for them, which means Gibraltar. She went to the far western end of the Mediterranean and consulted with the goddesses there who tended to this tree that grew these golden apples. And they gave her this golden apple. And she goes back and she writes on it for the fairest. And then she throws it over the hedgerow into the party, right? They can't let her through the gate, that the bouncers are not having her, but she tosses it over the bushes and it rolls into the party. And basically, the vanity of the gods, they one by one, they see this thing. They're like, I'm the fairest. I'm the, it's me. And they're arguing with each other. The whole party's ruined. She ruins the whole party with this one thing, just throwing it there. It's basically a meme. Okay. And
Right.
it's like, it's text on a, not
But
an
what's
image.
really cool is that what also happened in 2005?
It's social media and meme
That's
culture.
when that's
Yeah.
when like yeah, that's when Facebook's invented.
It's when it
That's
really
when
exploded.
all of it happened, like right? Or
Yeah, well,
yeah.
we had Friendster in 2003, but then MySpace in
Oh yeah, I
2005.
forgot about MySpace,
But
right?
but
That's when
MySpace was pretty successful. I mean,
and I think like isn't I don't know, did Twitter and YouTube start? 2007
I
to
think Twitter might be 2009, 2007, 2007, I think.
definitely it's when Facebook started and
Yeah,
everything
it's
else
it
started
it
before.
explodes. I mean, it all just
It's when
explodes.
social media is like,
Yeah, I
hey,
mean, within five
here.
years, it's almost everybody has an account with at least one of these things, right? By 2010, you could say that almost
And
everybody and their
also,
grandfather.
Apple wasn't really a thing then until the iPhone comes out in what,
Well, yeah,
2009?
Apple was down in the dumps. But then they came up with the iPod.
Right.
Yeah, but the
And that's,
iPhone, I mean, it's got the Apple on it. That's Eris's Apple, in my opinion.
yeah.
It's Eris. I mean, the wedding is so. I do want to touch on this one thing because it's pretty insane. That the wedding is a forcible thing. That the bride at the wedding is a R victim, an SA victim who's been deliberately put in that position by Zeus. He's orchestrated this thing. The groom is her attacker. He's the perpetrator. And so by sullying her purity, she's forced into the marriage.
Was this like Helena Troy? Like, what is this
No,
like?
it led to Helen of Troy. It's a crazy story. It's so convoluted and crazy. It was uh the bride was actually Thetis, Thetis, who's a shape-shifting goddess
Hmm.
who's like goes through multiple incarnations, and that basically she's probably the reincarnation of this other goddess named Metis that was Zeus's ex-wife. And there was a prophecy that Metis would have a child that would exceed Zeus, that would be greater than Zeus. So he tried to get rid of her, and he couldn't get rid of her. She keeps coming back in all these different forms. And so she's as Thetis, she's like this beautiful sea nymph. And he's like, okay, I want to make sure that her womb is polluted by a mortal, basically. So she'll have a half mortal child. There's no way that person's gonna exceed me.
Is it Achilles? Who is
It's
it?
Achilles. Yeah, it's Achilles. It's a really, really weird thing because Achilles, I don't know if he necessarily exceeds Zeus, but the whole culture goes through this weird thing. It's like it kind of corresponds to the collapse of the Bronze Age, which
Hmm.
is a little bit before the first millennium, right? BC. And then there's everything collapses in the Mediterranean. And it sort of roughly goes along with what they're describing in the Trojan War is that there's this war, the gods can't get along, everything's corrupted. Achilles is very sacrilegious. He defies the gods. It's sort of like this new spirit is coming into humanity where they're kind of thumbing their nose at the deities. They don't respect the deities as much. And the gods withdraw, right? They're no longer, afterwards, they're no longer actually directly interacting with humanity. Like by the time we get classical Greece, it's long, that's like way in the past, right? So nobody expects Athena or Zeus to come down and, mate with anybody or talk to anybody. That stuff that's like way in the past. And that the kind of the end of that was really the Trojan War. So you get this major shift in power. And it's really down to this thing that Zeus was trying to he was trying to nail down the last little thing. The last little thing he didn't have control over was this one woman, okay? And he couldn't control her. I mean, he had her assaulted, he had her impregnated by a real loser, like a total Hunter Biden of the of the Olympic world. He's exactly Hunter Biden, okay? The Peleus is the guy who's the husband, the groom at the wedding. You get this really corrupt thing. It's very similar to like what we see now, where you see these really unqualified people. You get these really, airheaded, stupid people that are up there running governments. And it just, they were having this party to celebrate that they'd consolidated power. And then Eris came in and blew it all to shit, basically, just by sending a meme. It was just a meme. All it was one word on an apple, and they couldn't agree on who was the fairest. It came down to the three goddesses, right? So you've got Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite. So that's
Oh,
Minerva, um, Juno, and Venus. And then everyone's like afraid to tell them that they're not the fairest. So they're like, okay, we're going to solve it through a beauty contest with these three, and they're going to work it out. But we're not going to judge you because we don't want to. We're afraid.
you want to get your
So
wrap.
yeah, so what they do is they throw the apple down into where the shepherds, just ordinary people, and it's like a fluke thing that this guy Paris, he's the exiled prince of Troy,
Hmm.
and he's actually living as a shepherd. And Paris gets the apple, and Paris becomes the judge. So the judgment of Paris, the three goddesses come down, and they offer him all these bribes and stuff to win, right? And it's Aphrodite's, Venus's bribe to Paris that she'll make sure that he gets to have the most beautiful woman in the world as his
Which is
wife,
Helen of Troy.
which is
Yeah.
Helen of Troy. And it just is for me, it's like the most fascinating thing. The gods, without even realizing it, this is the important thing, is without realizing it, they lower themselves down and submit to the judgment of the most ordinary person, a, a shepherd. That's like a 15-year-old boy who's like out in the fields, right? A dirty, ordinary, low class, right? Just a worker. And they without even realizing it, they lower themselves, they humiliate themselves, and they submit to the judgment, right? And I think that's what's happened since Eris took over, is the power elite have been embarrassed and humiliated, and without even realizing it, they're lowering themselves down to the level of the working class, and they're just creating like a total a level playing field in a weird way. Like they're erasing the respect for hierarchy. All that stuff is just like it's just disappeared because of their own self-destructive action.
Yeah, and that's an amazing kind of analogy for our own government right now and our
Totally.
own our own political systems in the world.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
even
It's
just the
it's
US though, even it's just crazy. I mean,
yeah.
and I also think that it's like we're coming to like I remember I watched that Perseus movie on the plane like when I just went to
Is that a
Turkey.
new one?
It's an older one, but who did it have? It had the guy from the Avatar, like Sam
Oh,
Wellington.
right. The
Yeah.
Kiwi guy. He's a New
Kiwi guy,
Zealander.
yeah, or Australian or whatever he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Sam
he said,
Worthington, is that guy's name?
and we're something like that, or
Yeah,
Wellington,
I'm out
Worthington,
of it.
something.
Yeah,
I'm out of that kind of
yeah,
like, but anyway, he was, but he has some line in the movie where it's like Liam Neeson is Zeus or whatever, and he's kind of talking about how like people stopped praying to us, and so we don't have power anymore because like we literally don't have like the it was almost like they don't have the looshing energy. So it's almost like they can only help him so much because they physically don't have the energy to even help anymore because they are so forgotten.
the
And
people have they've lost touch with them.
like well the actual gods themselves can like can't do anything to help Perseus like physically because
Yeah,
they don't have the power to help him anymore like they used to, but now it's like it's almost like their power comes from worship, their power comes from uh belief in them or comes from
right,
like people like, and so like if you use that same analogy with like whoever the Illuminati is or whoever's controlling whatever controlling forces or systems,
right.
could be egregores or thought forms or whatever. And if you stop giving them, you give your power away all the time. If you stop giving your
Yeah,
power away,
yeah.
if we stop doing that collectively, we really might create something completely different here.
Well, yeah, I fully agree. I mean, I think I've my contention is that it's already that's already happened. So I would say that that happened in 2005, basically. That was the turning point.
And we're just watching it slowly.
Yeah, that it's filtering now. It's getting to the point where everybody knows it. So it's like it's getting more and more and more and more nakedly evident.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of like the one of the biggest triggers was during COVID, like 2020, 2021, that Pluto and Eris were actually in a square. They were in a 90-degree angle with each other. So they were really, really battling at that point. So there was a real struggle for hearts and minds, on the Plutonian level, on that power elite level. And but it's already a done deal. It was over. They lost it. They already lost it. So that's the thing is that discovery was the point at which they lost it. So it's a done deal. It has almost nothing to do with anybody's machinations, anyone's, there's nothing that can be done to change it. And I think it would be true for any country that had a global empire. So if it weren't the United States, if it was China or Japan or France or Kenya or any, it didn't really wouldn't matter where it was. If there was one center of global hegemony, just that whole way of operating is over. That's why like I don't worry about like China, Russia, what these countries are going to do. It's they know any emerging power that's going to be successful now, which could include America. Like I was hopeful that Trump would actually go America first, right? And say we're kind of cooling down the empire and we're going to take care of ourselves and we're going to let you all take care of yourselves, right? But I mean, he has, he's doing the Israel thing and he's doing all these other things and it's just like he's doing the same old, same old. So probably not, but it's what will succeed is countries that don't want to export their hegemony. They want to allow there to be a balance of power. That's the what I call the Iridian model, is acknowledging the power of the other, right? Like when you post something publicly and people can thumbs up or thumbs down. You can't force a person to thumbs up. I mean, you can buy likes, but just
Right.
in principle, you can't make somebody like something they don't like. They're gonna like it or they're not gonna like it. And it's the any government that's gonna work from now going forward for at least 50 years, it's gonna depend on them really being a lot more attuned to what these other countries want or what they can do cooperatively, in my opinion. That'd be like the most optimistic view of it, is that we can actually adapt ourselves to the new paradigm.
I love that. All right, Val, well, I think that's kind of a good note to end on.
Okay. All
Unless
right.
if anybody has any questions, let us know. Well, like, I mean,
Yeah.
because that's like kind of a cool, like, little,
No, totally. Yeah, no, I would say just as a note that Haumea is the big one nowadays. That's
And what do you think that Haumea does?
it's it's kind of like Mother Nature. I mean, we could come back to this one later. It's there's a real Pluto's been bumping up against these things. So it kind of made this 90-degree thing with Eris, and now it's doing it more with Haumea. And those are very unusual configurations. So they each kind of have their different um things. So we're getting I don't yeah, it's just shit's really hitting the fan in a lot of ways, and it will for the next 5 years. And then it will I think it's gonna the tension is gonna ratchet down. But between now and then, we'll circle back at some point to it. But between now and then, it's going to be, I mean, a lot of things.
Right, like
The
volcanic
real basics:
flakes and yeah, like some
food, shelter.
okay, cool. Yay, looking forward to that one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was fun. We'll do it
Thank
again.
you. Yeah,
I like
thanks a
it. This
lot.
was a
Really
cool
appreciate it.
live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let me end this thing and see how that goes.
Okay.
Um,
I hope I wasn't too